everybody.
Hey, welcome to Fantasy Top 5, everybody.
It's true.
Hey, I am back. I'm Sean. I don't know if y'all missed me, but I missed being here last Thursday. Instead, I was watching my Raiders get their asses kicked.
Oh, did they there too? I watched the game, but I wasn't sure if that's the same thing that happened at the stadium. I thought maybe they won at the stadium.
Yeah, I was. It would have been nice.
Sure.
It would have been nice. It was on my birthday. I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna go. They're gonna win it for me, which I don't know why the hell they would. Just
I don't know. I told Broncos fans to root for the Raiders just because it's your birthday. I don't know if they did.
I think there was a few of them there that did for their safety. Like
that's
they were
probably
rooting
true
for
as
them.
well. But yeah, we were Fantasy Top 5. We also got Lane over here. He's doing stuff.
Yeah, he's setting everything up, to pushing the buttons and stuff.
And yeah, we are Fantasy Top 5. We I guess we should tell people what we are. We do a fantasy podcast on justin.tv/fantasy top 5 live. You can come on here and chat with us. Also send us a tweet on Twitter at Fantasy Top 5.
You can Facebook us also at Fantasy Top 5. You can go to our website, www.fantasytop5.com. And you can also download our podcast. If you're not able to catch it live, you can download it on iTunes. If you love it and you want to recommend your friends, but obviously it's not going to be live tomorrow when they can see it, yeah, send them to iTunes. They can download, send them to Stitcher, basically any podcast app. It should be on there. So yeah, just search Fantasy Top 5 and you should be able to find us.
It's true. I say it's true a lot.
That's true.
That is very true. So we always start with news and bruises. The number one, which I think we should do the exact same thing as well, is they're talking about eliminating kickoffs for player safety. And we talked about it earlier, and we decided that we are also going to eliminate our intro to the podcast for people's safety.
Because it's so damn funny.
Because it's so damn funny. Yeah, the people are falling out of their chairs laughing. They're hurting themselves.
They're getting fired from their jobs because they're laughing at
out
their
loud.
desks.
It's just it's a safety issue. It's a hazard. You know, it's so funny that it's just, and it's sad because it really is the most exciting part of the game and the most exciting part of our podcast.
Yeah,
but
so I think we
just can't allow this to keep happening.
Yeah, and
I feel guilty. I really do. I feel bad.
Feel guilty that people are losing their jobs.
I'm having a hard time sleeping
hilariousness.
at night. I am, and so we're just gonna have to do something about it.
Yeah, we'll
and
definitely
if it ruins
have to think
our
it over.
podcast,
Yeah, we'll definitely have to think over.
Yeah, nothing's decided yet. It's not decided yet. We haven't officially decided it, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna ultimately end up doing what the NFL should ultimately do and not eliminate. Yeah, like Eric was saying, the most exciting part of it, because people love the intro from what I hear, and also, but more importantly, people love a kickoff. You know who else loves a kickoff? David Wilson.
Yeah, that's very true.
A kickoff.
He
loves to not have a kickoff go anywhere shorter than the 50-yard line. Like, he was incredible yesterday.
You know who else loves it? Josh Cribbs, but for different reasons. Not because he's good at it,
but because he does
it.
Oh,
because he's that too. Because he's a fat head.
Did you see someone return to kick for him yesterday?
Yeah, I know.
And it wasn't him. I was like, what in the world?
It's funny because he talked about this, and he talked about how he'd be out of a job if they did it. And I was like, and so I was watching the game, and when I saw it, I was like, nice, good job. And
not
I'm like,
Cribbs.
Oh, that's not Cribbs. And so maybe he's out of a job anyway because the other guy was so good.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And because he does nothing. But no, I actually think Cribbs, I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years if he bounces back. Like, he's got a lot of talent. He just, I don't know, he hasn't got a flow going at all with anything yet. But
Cribbs?
I think the Browns are steadily working up, and I think they'll either work him into the offense or they'll get rid of him. But maybe they won't. I can tell by the disgust on your face.
No, I don't know.
Like, why are you being so positive, Sean? What happened?
I have nothing to say about Josh Cribbs. He's a fathead. He's a football player, and
he did get replaced on Fatheads by Matthews. So yeah,
they got a little bit higher budget.
Yeah.
They could afford the little bit more A-class player instead of the B or C that Josh Cribbs is. Nothing against Josh Cribbs. He's a cool guy.
It was your bag on him for a couple minutes, but nothing personal.
But yeah, I don't think they should eliminate him, and that's a really weird thing that they want to do as well. They want to instead.
They already made it so they had to kick closer, so they're more likely to kick it out of the end zone. But I love the kickoff. That's the thing is, I love big hits and stuff. I don't like how they're trying to make the NFL more, basically just more pussy, for lack of a better word. Like, they're just trying to make it soft, and I think And that's the thing is, there's lots of NFL players that agree with me on it. I feel like where they're like, the sport we love is physical, and I think a lot of them understand what they're getting themselves into.
Mm-hmm.
So Goodell needs to get out of his own way and just let him play. Like,
Can
it's
you
the biggest
imagine
thing
how-
out there right now is the NFL.
It would be so boring. They've talked about instead what they're going to do is they're going to give it to you on 4th and 15, and it's up to you what you decide what you want to do. You can punt it away, or you can run a play if you want. But he thinks it could be just as exciting because who knows, they might run a play. Even though you're on, I think your own 30, so you'd be giving them ridiculously good field goal range, and you have a 15 yards you have to get.
I'm so confused.
But it's just not near as exciting as that kickoff that starts the game. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. The ball's flying through the air. Someone catches it. Someone
Yeah.
could run a touchdown with it.
And that's the thing is, I don't think that they will. I think it was, but at the same time, it's surprising to me that they were able to pass, pushing it forward. But I don't think they're going to be able to eliminate it. Like, it's just such a big part of it. A lot of the scouting goes out to getting these backup players that can do good as like a fourth receiver or a backup running back. But also their strong suit is returning kicks. Like, I think they need it. And it's also some teams like win games. Like, look at the Ravens. The Ravens have won multiple games off of Jacoby Jones.
Yeah.
And without that, it's so much more boring in those games where it's just all defense. You need special teams to keep those going.
It's kind of funny that, they talked about this, and then David Wilson has that kind of game where you can't deny that was such an exciting part of that game was because of him and because of the kickoff. I feel like that was like an immediate. Maybe even David Wilson was like, I gotta show them something as to why they can't get rid of this. So we'll move on. My number 2 news story is the Ravens replace offensive coordinator Cam Cameron with quarterback coach Jim Caldwell, who used to be the coach of the Colts. And I think it's a good move.
I think this. It's been a while since I've clapped for something on
No,
this
you
podcast.
did that. It was in the beginning, I remember.
But the Ravens, they finally got to the point where they're like, oh, we really have a ton of offense out there, but let's not do anything with. Let's do like the game against the Steelers. And I know that wasn't this last week, but the game against the Steelers, Ray Rice has that 35-yard touchdown run that he broke. That was all him. Like, he made the right call because the hole was here, the little bit of a hole, and he decided to bounce out, and he made a great move and scored on it. They didn't give him the ball the whole fourth quarter, and you can't do that. Like, Ray Rice is the best player on that team right now. All those defensive players that are great are old now. He is your franchise player. He should be getting the ball.
There was that 29-yard when they were 4th and 29.
Yeah, and that's one of the things he can do.
That they won the game because of him. Because if he hadn't got it, they would have had to give the ball back, and they probably would have lost. Especially since the defense can't hold people at all. If anybody watched the Redskins game. Up 8. All they have to do is not allow the touchdown. They get the touchdown. All they have to do is not allow the 2-point conversion. They get the 2-point conversion. All they have to do is not allow them to kick a field goal, and they punt it back and immediately in field goal range.
And I was on the road a lot yesterday,
My
but
gosh, Ravens defense.
was that was with the backup quarterback, right? That wasn't with RG3.
Yeah, that was with RG3 out. So it's not like they even were going up against RG3 and you'd be like, okay, Ravens defense. It was RG3.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
still can't stop them.
The Ravens
really.
are they're just the Ravens. I guess we'll talk about it probably more later, but yeah.
Yeah. But it is, yeah. I mean, and so I think it's good. I think hopefully Jim Caldwell makes a few more decisions, and I think this will spark a lot of. I mean, as far as I think most people after that loss were pretty down on the Ravens, and Ravens always are up and down. I feel like it's constant, and maybe this sparks a end of the season run that they start playing a lot better. So. My number 3 is the NFL is also doing some flex scheduling for Week 16, which I don't know why. I would much rather watch the Chargers and Jets play Sunday night instead of the 49ers Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know.
But they changed it. They decided to get rid of the Chargers and Jets game Sunday night and change it to the 49ers Seahawks because they're two better teams.
Uh-huh.
And then they also changed the Ravens and Giants to middle game as well. So,
okay,
it's a little bit more exciting football for you there.
Well, at this point, there's lots of teams that are out. I think it's safe to say the Chargers and the Jets are two of those teams. And the 49ers and the Seahawks, no one would have guessed it going into the season. But with that tie and everything, like the 49ers are not that much ahead of the Seahawks right now. And the Seahawks, if you saw that game yesterday, which a lot of stuff could change, both their cornerbacks may be out next week and then going into the playoffs. But still, I think that is the game people would obviously rather see is those two teams playing for that division. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the rest of the season. There's a lot of teams that are making a push, all of them not in the AFC mainly.
I think they should have done. I guess they can't change Monday games because I say they should have done the same thing this week as well with the Jets Titans Monday.
Jets Titans a good game.
I think they should have put the Rams Vikings. That's what I was thinking. They're both in the hunt. They both could make it. I would like to see the Rams.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, yeah, they are both in the hunt, and that's the thing is, there's lots of teams that are both in the hunt, or like the Giants and Falcons game. That's 100 times better game.
But
The
I guess
Steelers
they
and
had
the Cowboys game is a
apparently,
good game.
yeah, I looked it up, and apparently they can only change the Sunday games. They can't change the Monday
Yeah, which
or
I don't
Thursday,
get.
which I don't understand either. Yeah, because who wants to watch?
I know
Jets
they
Titans?
have things. I think with Thursday night and Monday night, they have contracts set up saying every team has to be on
Yeah, I
Monday
think
night
they do
or
that
Thursday
Thursday.
night. And that's the thing is, if you think about it,
And I like
after
that.
last year, the Jets and the Titans, I don't think anyone expected them to be as awful as they have been. And really, both teams have had their moments, but yeah, both overall terrible seasons. And I don't think people would have guessed that. And also with the Chargers and who did you say? It was Chargers and the Jets.
Jets
also, I
again.
still don't think most people pick the Chargers to win the AFC West every year, and I don't think people expect them to be out of it with 4 weeks left to go or with 3 weeks left to go. So that's it makes sense, but at the same time, I like that they can switch it because I love a good Sunday night football game.
Yeah, and so that's kind of nice. They can change it. Yeah, apparently they put it in the contract or something last year when they changed everything. My number 4 is Vince Young. Apparently texted Larry Fitzgerald and asked him to get him the starting quarterback job in Arizona, which I thought was quite bold of him.
Yeah.
So next week we could see Vince Young as the quarterback of the. Not really.
It would be hilarious. It would be like
would be awesome
if
if it
Arizona's
really
trying to
happened.
get a contract to get a reality TV show, maybe like just to show how awful they are. But that's the thing is they're going to finish out the season. They know they're not going anywhere at this point. Like they're 4-9 now, and they haven't won a game in 9 weeks. But I think next year they're going to have
Cardinals.
Flynn. They're going to have Vic. They're going to have even Alex Smith is probably an upgrade. They're going to get someone, I think. And there's people out there to get so.
It's just so hard to think, and the reason I put it in here is just because I mainly wanted to mention that it is so hard to think that the Arizona Cardinals were 4-0,
Yeah,
and then look at them now.
Before your
and-
boys went in there and wrecked shit.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, that did happen. I remember that. But still,
They derailed
and then-
that train. They have a great defense. I don't care what people say. They still have. Like if you look at the Seahawks yesterday, 58-0. Seahawks offensive numbers other than Marshawn Lynch weren't great. It was all their defense, and that's the thing.
That defense is insane.
The Cardinals their offense is just so poor.
It's just crazy. They're 4-0. I just can't wrap my mind around how they were 4-0 and they are this bad. And then my number 5, I can either go really ridiculous or really, really sad and depressing. Like, because usually I try to make the number 5 ridiculous. Last week I went really sad. And I can do one of two.
I should have read your thing before I said the thing I said last.
I know.
On the last one, but
And so I think I'm going to go ridiculous.
yeah, let's keep it light.
We'll go ahead and ignore the whole Dallas Cowboys sadness. But my number 5, apparently they're creating a reality TV show about Packers fans, which I think is good. Because if you're going to pick one fan base
That
to
is
make a
it.
reality TV show about, where you can just find absolutely ridiculous,
Did you see
crazy.
Will Ferrell yesterday on the
Mm.
sideline?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he looked insane. He was described as looking like a thin Andy Reid, and I think they were spot on. He had huge mustache and stuff. Yeah,
At the Packers game?
Yeah. It was. I don't know why he was there. I just saw a clip of it somewhere, and I was like, "What?"
I feel like they can find good shots. Like even the game last night, like just out in the cold. Like that game, I didn't even like watching it. I just felt cold and miserable the whole time. And Packers fans are there, and they enjoy it.
Yeah, they love it, and that's the thing is Packers fans are
So I will
Packers
watch.
fans. Like they're the most loyal.
I will watch that reality TV show. I hope your brother makes an appearance.
Wow, my little brother, the Packers fan. Yeah, that would be
Yes.
awesome. Look at him, right? Just see him. That's awesome.
I did not know Will Ferrell was a Packers fan.
I didn't either, but
He kind
yeah.
of looks like Andy Reid.
Yeah, really. But way thinner. Andy Reid, because Andy Reid's a big dude.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So we'll go through our bruises really quick. The number one has to be Des Bryant, who looks like it is fairly official that he will be out with a season-ending finger injury, which is huge for fantasy owners because he's
Especially if you're me and you own him. Especially if you're Lane, who's out of the playoffs but still owns him. The best player on probably either one of our teams, and he's out. Well, I guess I have Julio Jones, so I can flip a coin and maybe he'll do great. Maybe he won't.
There is that.
But Des Bryant. But I guess I have some backups. But yeah, that's rough because he's been lights out the last like 6 weeks. He's just been great, and so that's awful.
Yeah, it's really depressing. My number two is RG3, who looks like he'll be okay. He suffered a knee injury in his overtime win with the Ravens, and he tried to play through it. And I was like, get him out of there. Like, he looked like he was miserable. Apparently the MRI is negative, and it looks like he should play. So that's good because he was in a lot of pain. Still trying to play.
Yeah, and that would be,
of course,
that'd be huge for them if he wasn't able to play because they're still in it. Like, they're right there.
Yeah, he
So-
tried to run like 2 or 3 plays after getting injured, and like I don't know why. I mean, I think the last play he ended up like he was about to get sacked, and he ended up just throwing the ball away and like falling down. And it was like, get him out of there! Like, why is he trying? I mean, he couldn't throw the ball. He was trying to kind of walk, and then was like hobbling.
So it's a little scary just for the fact that if RG3 is not trying to run with it, like there's obviously something there. So hopefully they can figure it out before next Sunday.
Yeah, although Kirk Cousins actually played really well. But my number two is Jay Cutler, who suffered a neck injury, which, man, he's hard hit after hard hit. That one looked really painful if you saw it.
Yeah.
He pretty much got tackled by one guy and then just slammed in the head by another guy. But it looks like he'll be fine. He said, I guess he had a radio interview this morning, and he said that his whole body...
I think he has a radio show.
Yeah,
I think.
maybe that's what it
Yeah,
was.
I think he has a show he does.
And he said his whole body just hurts. He says he thinks it's because he's getting old.
Well, that's
I
been
think it's because he
Cutler's
keeps getting
whole
destroyed.
thing.
Yeah,
he
I
just
don't-
gets hit constantly. But Campbell actually didn't look bad for him yesterday.
No, he didn't.
They still lost, but Campbell came in and threw a touchdown. So I don't know. Campbell's one of the few legit backups. I'm like, yeah, he's a very good backup.
Yeah, and the Bears just really haven't looked that good anyway. Number 3 is Dwayne Bowe. Hurt his ribs, didn't return. Looks like he will miss the next game against Oakland and could possibly miss more, which is huge for fantasy owners. And number 4 is Fred Jackson, who took a helmet to the knee and looks like he'll be out 2 to 3 weeks.
This is Eric's guy. Eric loves Fred Jackson.
He's like my going into the fantasy playoffs. I was excited because I have him in both leagues, and I wasn't going to play him, but it felt nice just knowing that I had him there.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt comfortable looking down at my bench because I looked at everything yesterday just to kind of see.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a pretty good shot I'm going to the playoffs in both leagues, and I was like, just kind of looking through your roster, just to see what you have, and I'm like, I feel good that Fred Jackson's there. Did not realize he's going to miss a lot of time, so.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rams won that game, so
Yeah,
there's
good.
that.
Rams are looking like the Fisher effect is finally in full charge. Like they didn't look great in that game from what I saw, but they still won, and that's what matters. That defense is good enough that the offense does a little bit of time to figure it out.
And they drove it down the field, which I like to see Bradford doing. And I was really frustrated because they didn't show any of that game on Red Zone. And then there was like a minute and something left, and I'm sitting there following it, and I'm like, please, will you show? Like, Bradford's driving it down. Will you show it Red Zone? And then luckily they showed me the whole end of the game, and Bradford drove it down and scored.
Good. Yeah, that's exciting because they have a lot of potential on that team. All right, and then we're gonna move over to the top 5 surprises and disappointments of this week. The number 1 surprise to me was Nick Foles, who it looks more and more like every week he's gonna be the Eagles starter next year. Like he's taken steps every week, and then this week was really his breakout week. He had 381 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He had 27 rushing yards, also had a rushing touchdown. And yeah, he's finally showing glimpses of that quarterback that everyone saw in that strong preseason performance he had. And the Eagles, I think it's safe to say they're out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they have their last 3 games are the Bengals, the Redskins, and the Giants. And the Bengals is a pretty tough matchup. But other than that, it's not like too bad. And if you have your fantasy championship coming up and if you think you can win next week, and then you're looking for a more steady quarterback, the Redskins give up a ton of passing yards. Like, look what Flacco did to them yesterday, and Flacco's awful on the road normally. So there's obviously some weakness there, and maybe you pick up Foles, and maybe he does something for you. But
yeah, and the touchdown he got at the very end was just, I mean, it looked really good. And I'm going to go ahead and toot my own horn here, but my number 1 in a pinch, Nick Foles.
yeah.
And if anybody listened, he did really, really well. And I was thinking about it right before the game started, and I'm like, I really picked Nick Foles as my in a pinch?
He did better than okay.
It's like, what is wrong with me? And then after the game, I was like, oh, yeah.
The only guy who outscored
Yeah, I
him
got this.
was
Yeah.
Cam Newton. And Cam Newton,
Yeah,
like we
Foles
said
had
a couple weeks
31
ago,
and Cam had
Newton
like
is
35.
just tearing it up.
That's another reason I felt good about me going into the fantasy playoffs. I'm like, I got a good team.
Yeah, Cam Newton is, and that's the thing is the schedule gets weak. And next
And I knew
year,
that.
I think in the
told people that a
draft
few
they
weeks
look
ago.
for a good receiver for him because Steve Smith is good,
Mhm.
but he's getting older,
Yeah,
and they
he
need
needs
another
someone
weapon
else.
there, and that team could be so good. They need to get rid of one of those running backs and stick to one of them, but that's not what we're talking about. So
Yeah,
move
I was
on
just
now.
happy Nick Foles had that good of a game, 31 points, and I put him as my in a pinch, which
You knew it.
got to listen to me.
Yeah. All right, and then number 2 surprise of the week was Kenny Britt, who I don't know why. Well, I actually do know why. I was talking to a guy on Twitter who was asking me a question, and then he mentioned Kenny Britt, and I was like, I feel like I've kind of just dismissed Kenny Britt
Yeah.
after how poor the beginning of the season was for him.
He was out, and
But-
then he came back and hasn't really done a whole lot. And
Yeah, but then since their bye week, basically, he's gotten a lot better. It looks like him and Locker are in a flow, and it looks like Locker, especially with yesterday's game, it looks like Locker is just throwing him the ball like crazy, and he's had at least 8 points, which isn't great, but it's better than a lot of guys really right now,
Mhm.
especially if you're a Des Bryant owner or something like that, or if you're a Brandon Lloyd owner and you haven't found someone to replace him yet or something like that. He looks like he's getting a lot more consistent, and he had 13 points without scoring a touchdown. So that's pretty dang good. So yeah, and he's only owned in like 49% of leagues. So if you can get him, I would pick him up.
See, and I
'cause
didn't
he's
realize
worth
he
taking
was
a shot on.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was so low. I didn't put him in the pickups. I feel like you should go pick him up because he is owned in our league. And actually, Margaret has that exact same thing. She's playing Brandon Lloyd right now. Unless he gets 30 points, I will win. But she also has Kenny Britt. I think she
And-
made the wrong decision.
Yeah. Well,
Brandon
it sounds
Lloyd is
like she
awful.
would have lost either way, but I don't know. It's just weird how many people have. And what we talked about a few weeks ago, don't lose yourself out of a championship by sticking with these people just because. Like, if I had Larry Fitzgerald, which I don't, but if I did, I wouldn't have played him for like half the season now.
And it still happens. I was listening to a fantasy show. Don't want to say what it is, but once again, got to play for Larry Fitzgerald, the guy says. And I'm like, are
Against
you
the Seahawks.
kidding me?
Against the Seahawks.
Are you kidding
If I
me?
had been starting him, I would be pondering not playing him against the Seahawks. Like, I think a while ago we talked about not starting Calvin Johnson against the Seahawks. And you know what they did? They shut him down. Like, there's, I don't know. It's just, people
Well,
are
he's like,
so
you gotta
scared
go,
to be
going
wrong.
down with the ship. You got to play him. He's your guy. He could go off, and if he goes off on your bench, you're gonna. I'm
I think,
like,
and that's the thing is,
dude.
the studs thing, I think it translates over to the top 10 quarterbacks, and I think it transfers over to the top probably 20 running backs. But wide receivers, there is so many good wide receivers out there
and
that
they have
you
to
don't
be
have
doing
to stick
well.
with it.
They also have to be doing well for that. Calvin
Mhm.
Johnson was one that, for a while, I mean, he wasn't playing great, wasn't doing, but I still kept playing him every week because I knew
Yeah.
it could happen. Larry Fitzgerald hasn't played good all year.
Yeah.
He's had a few good games, so
Yeah, and with the stud theory, I'm going to do a quick analogy for you really quick because I'm in the mood. I'm back. I'm excited about it. All right, take the high school, like some high school guy who is a great-looking guy. He's captain of the football team or whatever. He's a stud. All the girls want him or whatever. Everyone's looking at him 20 years down the road, when he's had 3 kids, he's gained 100 pounds, and he's still reflecting on the glory days, he's no longer a stud. Like, now at that point, he's a guy you can go out and pick up another guy for. Like, you don't stick with studs when they're proving to not be studs. That's my analogy of the day. I thought it was beautiful.
But if he's still in high school and he's kind of like dating kind of an ugly chick, you still stick with him.
Yeah.
It's just one ugly chick. I mean,
yeah.
It's a different thing here.
Yeah.
But once he's gone, and it's, I get it. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, I thought so. All right. And then, my third surprise of the week, which it wouldn't be a surprise if it was just an okay game, but it was the greatest defensive performance I think I've ever seen. And it's one of those things, everyone knew going into the game the Seahawks defense was one of the best in the league, and everyone knew that the Cardinals offense is one of the worst, if not the worst in the league. But I don't think anyone, even with all that, expected what they got. Like, the Seahawks just came out and destroyed the Cardinals.
It was insane.
Yeah, they had 3 sacks, 8 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and 4 fumble recoveries. I don't know why I have 2 on here, but they also scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and they looked awesome. And even against the Cardinals, they put up, like, depending on your scoring, and defenses is the thing that the scoring varies by far the most. Some people have a lot of different things they put on. Some people don't have as many. But in our league, the one that I go off of, they had 41 points, and that's 2 really good running backs from your defense, and that's way more than anyone has had.
Any defense has put up, all year.
And that's the highest score of this week so far.
Wow.
And probably will be the highest score of the week, and that's just insane. Like,
Yeah,
my little brother, the one that co-hosted, he had him, and he had a rough week for a lot of players, but that team came in, and now it looks like he's going to win it. So that's, unless Arian Foster has like 60 points, which I wouldn't put it past him because he is Arian Foster, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, this is the one that Erin, the co-host that was here last week, needed to win, and she was playing against Seattle, and unfortunately she had to play against Seattle, so she is not going to the playoffs. But yeah, and there's also a weird, crazy stat here. Both Richard Sherman and Bobby Wagner, who, by the way, is from Utah, each caught more passes than Larry Fitzgerald from Skelton, because they each had 2 interceptions.
I like
Larry
that.
Fitzgerald only caught 1 pass. So each of them. So we're both better wide receivers for Arizona than Larry Fitzgerald. And then, also Robert Turbin as well, who's also from Utah, looked really good when they decided to sit Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, they set a lot of people in the second half.
So Robert Turbin is one of those that I didn't put in my watchovers, but I did want to mention him at some point in this podcast, that if Marshawn Lynch ever goes down, or if you have Marshawn Lynch and just want to be safe, you have a spot, I wouldn't pick him up unless you're that, so he's not actually going to go into my watchovers or anything. But another guy from Utah that played really, really well and looks to be a stud running back. But Marshawn Lynch is obviously going to get the carry, so he's not even really a watchover right now.
All right. And then my fourth surprise of the week was David Wilson, who he had a really good game against the Saints. He had 100 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he also had a return touchdown. And this is one of those guys that he had that fumble in the opening game, but everyone could see. They can see the explosiveness out of this guy, and are like, I hope that he gets a chance to at least show what he's got, and he did. And this was due to Bradshaw dealing with injuries, and so depending on Bradshaw, who even if he's injured, he's out there yelling at the coach to give him the ball. So
that's what Bradshaw does.
It's kind of like taking a chance, but he's one of those guys that, with all the injuries there's been, and with all the people going on IR, and with all the knee injury here and this and that, David Wilson, I think, is a guy I would pick up and just see if it looks like he's going to get a chance, because if he can keep from having turnovers or anything like that, which is the problem that they have, why they've kind of steered away from him, is because they're worried about that. You obviously can see what he can do, what he did. Like, he looked great in this game. And I also, if he's the starter, I could see them making someone else go back and return kicks maybe. But I love a guy that returns kicks too, because that's why I loved Antonio Brown so much, is he all of a sudden would have an extra 6 points because he returned a kick. And it doesn't happen very often. It's not like people have kick returns all the time. But it's like, basically it's like Matt Stafford, where all of a sudden he'll have a running touchdown. out of nowhere. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens occasionally. Speaking of, I don't have it in here, so I'm just going to go into it really quick. Did you watch the Lions-Packers game?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, here it is again, and I have my issues with him at times. He is the best quarterback in the league. He is that whole damn team. He scrambles for a 27-yard touchdown. That just that's Michael Vick-esque. Like, he's just like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm just going to go.
Oh, and he went to go throw the ball to Jermichael Finley, and as he was throwing it, Jermichael Finley was falling down, and he's like, oh, wait, pulled it back in, and then ran in the touchdown. So it's not like he just ran in the touchdown. He, like, literally was in the process of throwing the ball, noticed Jermichael Finley falling down, didn't, and was like, oh, and then ran the touchdown in.
Yeah, and he also...
That play was epic.
And he's one of those guys, you get pressure, and that's the thing. He would not be able to survive as an NFL quarterback if he played the game like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. I'm just going to pick those two out because they're the two I noticed to do it the most. If you rush Tom Brady and you get through, he tucks the ball and he drops, which is very safe, but it doesn't get you any huge plays. And I was just barely at the Raiders-Broncos game. I know which team won and everything, but I watched the Raiders get to Peyton Manning multiple times,
Yep.
and I watched him just drop and tuck the ball. And you own Peyton Manning in both leagues.
He
He
did
did
not
not
have a
do
good week.
good. That
No,
was
he did
all their
not.
defense. The Raiders could not score a damn point, and that's why they lost. That's the thing is, if Aaron Rodgers was like that quarterback that everyone calls the true elite quarterback, he wouldn't be playing the game. He's always been making these plays. And now his team is at the top of that division again because of him. Like Greg Jennings, you also have Greg. I hate to just pick at you all day, but you also have Greg Jennings, and people were waiting for him to come back. How well has he done for you? Like,
Not very.
yeah, and
I
that's
played
the
him
thing
over
is,
Pierre Garçon.
oh, that's rough.
It's okay. Now I know going forward. And I have both of them, so I'm not even
And
complaining.
Pierre Garçon, yeah, that's not a bad problem. It's not like
yeah,
you're like,
those are my two quarterbacks that I couldn't decide which one to play as my wide receiver 3, so I'm not...
yeah, it's not like you have him over Jason Avant, who I actually have in my 5th spot, who came in and had 7 catches for 133 yards. Because if you did, it would be a surprise to you that this guy came out and did anything. That's why he's my number 5 surprise. And I don't have a lot to say about it other than just he's Avant.
Good game.
Everyone knows he's a talent, and
That
he's...
catch. Holy
I
cow.
didn't see a lot of it, so...
I'll show it to you.
All right.
It's a spectacular. There were some catches on Sunday. If there was anything, there were a few people that caught the ball.
Yeah, and then and that's the thing is he seems to be flowing with Foles, and without Deshaun out there, it looks like he's going to be one of the main targets. And Foles is looking better, so I would pick up Avant if you need a guy. And also he's owned in 2% of leagues, and we're in kind of a smaller league, so I think that's part of it. But still, 2% of leagues if you're in a 2, no, that's a bit extreme, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, just
What is it?
I was going to say if you're in a 2-team league, but then I was like, that's really dumb. but yeah, he's just owned in 2%, and he's got a lot of
I
talent.
like it.
And there's a lot of guys out there. You're going into the fantasy playoffs. You only have 2 games, or maybe you have 3 games left. At this point, it's like, don't be afraid to drop a guy that might go off because you have 3 games left. Who the hell cares? Like, drop anyone. Drop Larry Fitzgerald. Drop Brandon Lloyd. They're all guys out there that most likely won't do anything. And you can also maybe get someone else out there that's like, I have an issue. I'm going to pick up this Larry Fitzgerald who you dropped, and he's going to do nothing for me. I'm going to lose, and then you're going to win.
Yeah, maybe that's a good strategy. Go drop some of these big-name players like Larry Fitzgerald and hope someone picks him up and plays
Yeah.
them against you.
Like, don't get me wrong. There's
So
been
you
a
can
lot
laugh
of
at 'em
there's
when
been a
you
lot
win.
of rough stuff with receivers mainly. Like, I don't know what their deal is with not being able to stay healthy because we both love Cecil Shorts, and then he's out with a concussion. And
that was the
rough.
guy. Which that was the other guy I had. It was Cecil Shorts, Greg Jennings, or Pierre Garçon as my wide receiver 3. I couldn't play Cecil Shorts.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really like that team.
All right, and then my disappointments. The number one, I think this is a disappointment to a lot of people because I think a lot of people are playing him. Because if you have this guy, he is a guy who had this guy. No, I mean he's a guy that was the leading rusher 2 weeks in a row, and he is Bryce Brown. He looked incredible in those first 2 games, and in this game he looked awful.
Yeah, I played him as well. Why am I talking so much about my team? Even you're talking about my team.
Like, I'm not meaning to.
This
It's just
podcast is all about my team, which I played
you own
Bryce
everyone
Brown.
that's on this, by the way, besides my 5th on the disappointment, which is awesome.
At least I own some people up there as well.
Yeah,
No,
but
I didn't.
Yeah, he had 6 yards rushing on 12 carries, and his long run of the day was 11 yards. Explain that to me. His longest run is 11, but he had 6 total yards on 12 carries. Like I don't know.
He had
how that,
negative.
Did he?
He was in the negative.
I think
for
he
a
fumbled
while.
once, is why, or something.
Fumble.
But I don't know. He just looked terrible. Keep in mind that Tampa Bay has a great run defense.
Yeah, they do.
But I also think people were like, we're going to key off on him and see if Foles can beat us with the arm. And he did.
And they won.
Yep. And that's just it's hard because I don't know what to tell you with Bryce Brown going forward. Who knows if McCoy's going to be back, and also who knows if, like, from what Brown's looked like, he should have good games. So I can't say that he's not going to have a good game going forward. So
I don't think I'm
good
going to
luck
play
with
him next week. Yeah, it's too important, especially with the playoffs. It's just too important. I don't think I can play him, but I'll be sad if I sit him and he goes off again. But
all right, and then another one of Eric's guys. You own Andrew Luck, right?
I do.
He's my second disappointment of the week, and he's looked awesome, and he's pushed himself into like the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and he's just a rookie. But he had his second worst game of the season yesterday, and it was one of 2 games that he's had. He's actually looked like a rookie. He only had 196 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And like I said, most importantly, he only had 10 fantasy points. And that's the thing is, if you had him, you're like, there's very few people you're going to start over him, especially against Tennessee's defense. So he may have killed your playoff drive if you had him and had to play him. So, but if not,
Peyton over him.
Oh, you did? Well, neither one of them did great, but Peyton did better, so it's the right call. But it's one of those things. I think he's back, so I still would play him because he's just so good, and they still won without him doing.
They
great.
were down. They didn't think they were going to win,
which I think that's huge. Like, to me, that's the biggest thing of the week. Is it's like they're all of a sudden 9-4 off of Andrew Luck having a bad game and the defense being able to keep up and still do good. So I think the Colts are all of a sudden looking like a better team than you would think.
But I feel like along with that as well, T.Y. Hilton and the wide receivers didn't really have a good game either. So
yeah, it's just rough. And then all right, the third disappointment of the week we talked about a little bit earlier is Greg Jennings, who a lot of people had him. Eric actually picked him up off the waiver wire, so Eric's probably not hurting as bad as these other people were. But a lot of people kept him through all that injury time and expected when he comes back off fresh legs, he's going to do great. I kind of expected the same thing. But he's been back for 2 games, and he's had 5 catches for 73 yards and no touchdowns. And
meanwhile, Cobb is still owning it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they talked about the weather yesterday, but the weather didn't stop Rodgers from getting Cobb the ball a lot, and Cobb having over 100 yards receiving. So it just looks like Jennings is having to work his way back up the ladder, I guess. Like, for lack of a better way to explain it, like that's the only way I can think of. It's like he left for a little while, and then other people stepped up, and now Rodgers is like, he still loves the guy, I'm sure, loves throwing to him, but he's like, I'm way more confident in these guys who I've been playing with this whole season. And Cobb is, Cobb's one of those guys you can't help but want to get the ball because he's so explosive, and so like he just can get away from tackles and stuff.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers has him he's got him some younger, more attractive.
Yeah.
He's kind of done with the old stuff,
Oh.
He's got these new wide receivers. They're shiny.
Yeah, well, at least Greg Jennings has a career at being in every single commercial that's on while football's on.
And they're funny.
Good. They are funny.
He's got that as well.
And
but
some of them are heartwarming. So I think he could be an actor if he doesn't make it in the NFL. No, but which he definitely will. He's still a talent, I think. I just don't know how long it's going to take for him to bounce back. But
they might get rid of him. Yeah, they might not need him anymore.
Yeah. But with Jordy's new path of injury proneness, it's hard to say what they're going to do. But I don't know. They still aren't in a bad position, so we will see. All right, and then my fourth disappointment of the week is a guy who hurts me because I'm a fan of the Raiders, and it hurts Eric because he picked him up in both leagues, and that is Brandon Myers, who was officially turned into the V-Jack of tight ends. And this isn't the V-Jack of this year, who has a couple bad games, but the rest are solid. This is the V-Jack of the last 3 years prior to this year, where he has an explosive game and then a nothing game and an explosive game and a nothing game. Basically, Brandon Myers, you can't predict when he's going to do well. Last week he did awesome against one of the best teams against tight ends. And Eric even said, don't play him, and he did awesome. And then this week he did awful. He had one catch for 7 yards.
The team that gives up on one of the most points to tight ends. So
yeah.
Apparently he doesn't like to follow the rules.
Yeah, he makes
There's
his
rules
own rules
here, Brandon Myers. You got to follow them.
Yeah, we write stuff specifically so you will do well. Do you not get the memo? But yeah, it's hard because tight ends
making us look bad.
Yeah, tight ends are a joke this year. Like
it's
weird because
brutal.
all of a sudden this year you're happy with having a consistent 7 points from a tight end.
I would kill for that.
Yeah, and that's why I have Witten in both leagues. I'm like, I want to play someone over him, but it's so hard to see. And that's the thing is the leaders right now are like at 11 points, I think. Like tight ends are just not doing well this season.
Yeah, it's been
besides
just
Gronk, who broke his forearm.
I know, and I had him.
Yeah, that is rough. All right, and then my last disappointment of the week is a guy that I'm just personally pissed off at. I don't usually put injuries in here because you can't control injuries. But in my head, Ahmad Bradshaw can control his coach, which most players can't control, so he can control injuries. And he has been amazing since their bye week, which has only been, this is only their third week from their bye week. But it looked like he was finally healthy. He was getting the ball a lot. He was doing well. And he comes out in this game and gets hurt, but he plays through it, but he also only gets 33 yards. And that's the kind of the thing with him is it's like, you want to play him because even when he gets hurt, he tries to come back in. Like, he never gives up. But at the same time, he has games where he just does nothing like this. And then it's just so hard to play him. And that's the thing is I would have I'd have both of my games locked up if I wouldn't have. I have the one locked up, but I'd have the other one locked up if it wasn't for Ahmad Bradshaw. I'm like, I can't not get all those points he's been getting. And then I play him, and then it just, I don't know. He's just not great. But he is great. It's weird. He's crazy. So
Aaron sat him, and I was like, bold.
Yeah,
she made the right decision.
Yeah, that is actually bold. But she also has Adrian Peterson
and Ray Rice and Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis.
Yeah, she has some good running backs. But yeah, it's basically if you have Bradshaw, good luck. Like you'll never know if he's going to play before Sunday. He'll always be questionable or probable, and he doesn't usually practice, so you never know if there's a reason he's not practicing because he never practices. So it's basically like good luck if you own him.
And they have David Wilson, so I feel like they have to
give him a shot at some point.
Yeah, sit him a little bit. So we'll move over to, we're kind of running a little late, so I'll run through these really quick. Our pickups, put downs, and watchovers, which are the people you should pick up from the waiver wire, people you should put down, and the players you should watch over. And my number one is David Wilson. I was going to talk about him, and then Sean kind of went off, so I knew I was going to talk about him later. But he's one of the guys that I talked about, and I talked about, and I talked about, and nothing really happened. It's one of those that I started questioning whether I should even have a fantasy podcast, started questioning my life, whether I should be living. Okay. All because of David Wilson, even though not really. But I love the guy. I thought he was going to be really good. I think we both did.
I've liked it. I've loved his talent.
And yeah, they just didn't want to really give him the ball, and they did, and he played really well. So hopefully, the main thing is, like you talked about, Ahmad Bradshaw doesn't like to ever sit down, and maybe he's just worried about losing his job. I think a lot of players should be. Alex Smith was one of those. It's like, nice job, Kaepernick. Yeah. And he was like, crap, why did I do that? And so maybe Bradshaw's the same thing. But anyway, pick up David Wilson. 27% owned, just to kind of have him. Yeah, you never know, especially if you're a Bradshaw owner. My number two is Noshawn Moreno at 68%. He was my also in a pinch player, and looked really good. They gave him the ball a lot, and he looks to be the guy in Denver with McGahee out. And I like Moreno. I liked Moreno 2 years ago. And then he disappointed me.
If he can stay healthy.
And I wanted to like him last year, but he was disappointing because McGahee did so well. And I think they're going to rely on him. Peyton Manning was having little chats with him and stuff. And Peyton Manning even talked about him after the game that said, Moreno's got to do this. And we talked about things. And he asked me questions. And so Peyton Manning's teaching him how to run. I don't know why.
Teacher on teaching how to run.
He's Peyton Manning.
He does know how to do a little of
He
everything.
doesn't run, but he knows how. My number 3 is Brandon Gibson at 13% owned. With Amendola out, I think he's definitely the guy in St. Louis. I feel like you should own him. I don't know if you want to play him or not. They're still still don't look great as a team, but 13% owned, I think you should pick him up. My number 4 is, I never know how to say his name, Bilal Powell?
Sure. Like, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a hard name. 9% owned. And they're finally using him, which they should, because Green is awful. And I put him as my really in a pinch, which I don't know if I think you watched the podcast, Sean. I decided to throw that in there just because it was playoffs coming up and everything else. And I had a bunch of guys I wanted to put in.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had a really good game as well. And my number 5 is Denario Alexander at 51% owned, which was a crazy game with Rivers and San Diego owning the Steelers.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And Denario Alexander once again puts up another really nice game. And he's been consistently good for a while now.
Yeah, and I thought he would struggle against the Steelers. I
did
put it
too.
in my drop-offs, and he did well.
Yeah, he did.
So, yeah, he's one of the main guys. And I actually picked him up a while ago, but he's one of the main guys at barely over 50% owned. Get him on your team.
Yeah, Malcolm Floyd was the guy there, and I think everyone kind of knew that. And so Denario Alexander's been getting the looks, and he's been doing well with them.
Mm-hmm.
My top 5 put-downs, my number 1 obviously has to be Larry Fitzgerald with 98% owned, putting up a big 0.20 points. Which now makes it 6.20. I think it's actually 5-0, actually, the last 4 weeks. Not averaging, total. He had 6.30 before, and that's total points. I have to make sure that I clarify that he's not averaging 6 points. He has had 6 points the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
He's averaging 2.
Yeah, that's terrible. He's
That
less
is
than 2 even.
Less than 2 points a game. If you have him, do not play him. I can't emphasize this
The
enough.
Arizona Cardinals are not going to have a huge offensive game. Get him off of your team.
Oh, it is brutal. My number 2 is Denarius Moore at 86% owned. He's averaging 6 points, so better than Larry Fitzgerald. At least he's averaging the 6 points, but I don't know what it is. He just does not seem to be a part of. I was actually hoping you could.
He's dropped off, and he actually was benched last week. Not against the Broncos, but last week before that for performance issues, which I have to assume he was running routes bad or he was arguing with the coach or something. And it looks like they've worked Streeter in. Hayward Bay finally is getting back in the mix. But the Raiders, they're passing a lot, but it's kind of inconsistent who they're going to. Moore still has upside, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't drop him,
just
but definitely
yet,
with how important the next few weeks are.
Because he's still averaging what Larry Fitzgerald averages in 4 weeks, so who knows?
My number 3 is Dwayne Bowe, which it looks like he's going to miss some time. So I'll also put Brandon Lloyd in there as well, even though he hasn't played yet. That's why he's not there. But I don't plan on him having a big game tonight as well. But yeah, he's averaging 4 points the last 4 weeks. Not very good. And my number 4 and number 5 are Antonio Gates at 94% and Vernon Davis at 95%. Neither of them are the elite tight ends that they once were.
Yeah, and if you're still going off the theory of these are the elite guys, I'm just going to stick with them, then that means Greg Olson's probably still out there, and go pick him up because he is the new elite.
And Cam Newton has been playing.
Yeah, when Cam Newton does well, Olson is involved.
Yeah, and Cam Newton gets in the ball. He does.
And he's athletic as hell for a tight end.
Yeah, they are both averaging 4 points the last 4 weeks as well, and are just not playable. Do not play any of these guys going forward. And my watchovers, Montel Owens is my number 1 watchover at 22%. I think he's the 4th string running back in Jacksonville. It doesn't look like MJD will be rushed back, and he had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
So with all the injuries, he may be the starting running back next week. Keep an eye on it. My number 2 is Nick Foles, who maybe should go up in my pickups. Like I talked about, he's 7% owned. He's the starter now. He knows that he has the job, so I think the pressure's a little bit off for him. And he played really well. That drive and that final touchdown against the Buccaneers to win the game was pretty impressive. My number 3 is Duwan Harris, 0% owned for the Packers. I think he's way better than Alex Green or Ryan Grant. He had 7 carries, which isn't huge, but definitely looked like a way better running back than anything Green Bay has.
Yeah, they have looked bad at that position, and he looked
Yeah, he
a
looked
lot
pretty
better.
good. He looked really. I don't know how many fantasy points he ran in a touchdown, I think.
Yeah, he did.
My number 4 is Jason Avant at 2% owned. Foles likes him. There's lots of wide receivers there. It's hard to really trust really any of them right now, just because it's kind of hard to trust Foles as well. But at the same time, it's not a bad guy to look at or maybe even pick up. And my number 5 is Clay Harbor at 0%. If Selleck misses any time, could be a good play. Once again, it's based off of Foles' production, so it's kind of...
Yeah, but he jumped in and he filled in nicely. So
that's why all the
not a
Eagles
bad
guys,
guy.
yeah, all the Eagles guys are down here in the watchovers because
And also,
you can't really.
Selleck has a concussion, and I think we've all seen that concussions in Philadelphia are a lot worse than anywhere else.
Yeah, they are.
So
Those are
I
brutal.
would be warned of that now.
And Clay Harbor had a good game, so 0% owned if you need a tight end. You're in a deep league or tight end spots have just been awful in general. Maybe
Yeah,
he's
they
a
have.
pickup. So
All right, great. And then we're gonna move over to our true or false segment, and like we always do, we'll kind of give the results of last week's true or false, which is the polls that we have on our website. And our first question from last week was the Packers will win the NFC North, which was voted true, and it looks truer every game. And then the Texans will finish the season with the best record in the AFC. Just voted true, which that'll either look like it will for sure be true after this game, or it will look way closer after this game, depending on what happens. And then the third one is the Falcons will finish the season with the best record in NFC. True. And
yeah,
I think they would have to lose out to not have that position. So I think that one's a little bit easier. But at this point, they could lose out. The Falcons have not looked like the Falcons of the first half of the season in the last few weeks.
Especially with Carolina just owned them.
Yeah, they did.
I think Cam wanted to prove something, but still, yeah, they looked
terrible.
Yeah, the Falcons are, and they're still that same team that looks good, but you don't really know. You can't ever, and yeah, fans try to be like, the Falcons, look at them.
And I love the Falcons. I love a lot of their players, but yeah, they're
I do too.
awful. And I feel like it's the jinx of keeping Michael Turner, but we're not going to get into that right now.
He's still doing great. At this point, I feel like we have to give in and just say Michael Turner is a running back in the league, and you can own him and start him.
No. He did get a touchdown with almost no time left in that game, and still looks relevant because of that. But
every game, well, I think we're wrong. I think
no,
he is.
We're not wrong. But all right. But the fourth one was Greg McElroy will finish the season at Jets tight end, and I kind of thought it might be true, but it got voted. I mean, quarterback. Sorry.
I was like, what?
But yeah, I kind of thought it might be true, but it got voted false. So
and it looks like it is false. He didn't even play. I don't know if it was an injury, but he wasn't even suited up. It was only Sanchez and Tebow.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was
Rex is
injury
just trying to beat Rex. All right, and then the fifth one is the Chargers will end the season at the bottom of the AFC West, and that is false. And it looks like it will be false because now they won the Steelers, and it'll be a lot harder for them to be at the bottom now. All right, and then for this week's, the first one is the Falcons will lose their first playoff game. True or false?
I think they'll win one this year.
You think they'll win one
I
this
have
year?
a hard time picturing them not at least winning one this year.
Yeah. And that's the thing is
I'm going to go false.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. Like, I think they've looked awful, but I think the difference is that they will have home field advantage. I think it'll take an act of God for them to not win the NFC. And then also, I've seen every time it's a game that they know is going to be tough, like the game against the Saints, they come prepared and they do great. And then when it looks like it's going to be easy against a team like the Panthers, who haven't done great this season, they just go in there lackadaisically and then they get their asses handed to them. And they've lost 2 games, so it's not like they do that a lot. But there's been a lot of games that they could have lost. They almost lost to the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. So there's been some some difficult wins that they've got, but I think that it's probably false as well. You have anything to say about this, Lane?
I didn't know it's part of true or false. I don't have nothing to say. I don't even know who they're playing, so
All right.
who they're going to play.
All right, cool. And then my second one is the Ravens will lose their first playoff game. What do you think about this, Eric?
I would have been a lot more. This would have been a lot harder question, except I do like that they are making some changes there to try to fix things. So I'm going to say false. I think I would have struggled with it a little bit more. I'm not saying that this has fixed everything, but I like the fact that they're making changes and they're going to do a few things. I think Ray Rice will get more looks, and I think because of that, it'll open up the passing game, and I think Flacco will look a little bit better. And Bolden looked really good yesterday, and so I'm going to say false. I'm going to say they win one.
And that's the thing is I want to say false, but the thing with me is I'm kind of opposite of you. I do like that they're making changes, but I'm going to go with true because it scares me that they're making changes this late in the season. There's obviously, it's not like they're saying this is a fluke that this happened. They obviously are really worried after losing 2 in a row to the Steelers and into the Redskins. Like, neither one of those teams have proven to be elite this year. And I know the Steelers Ravens rivalry is a big deal, but still, like, it's scary at this point. So I'm going to say true, but I don't feel confident in it. But I don't, because I do think they're a better team than they've played. But I also think that they could easily be, that whole division could easily be like 7-3. Like I think the Steelers and the Bengals are not 7-3, but 7-6. And could all be even. And yeah, Ray Lewis will help a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. All right, and then the third true or false is the Washington Redskins will make the playoffs. I'm going to take this to start. I think I'm going to say true just because I'm me and I love this kind of thing. But they play the Browns, they play the Eagles, and they play the Cowboys. And I think all of those games are winnable for them. The Eagles are not even in it. Mm-hmm. The Browns are the Browns. Like, they have played decent lately, but they're not great. And the Cowboys without Dez Bryant is nothing I would be super scared of. Like, maybe I think this helps people's value on that team, but I think ultimately it kind of kills their chance of getting to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say yes. And then what do you think, Eric?
I have a hard time. Right now they're not in the playoff picture. Right now the wild cards is the Bears and the Seahawks and the Redskins are, so they're still not even a playoff team if it ended right now. Mm-hmm. And then they're in the lead. But I think the Rams are going to come up and take it from them.
All right. So you're going to say false?
I don't think they're going to make it. I think the Seahawks look really good. I think the Bears look really good. And I do think there is a chance that maybe the Vikings or the Buccaneers or the Rams. I need to stop talking about that. But I just think there's a lot of good teams there that are all fighting for that wild card spot. And I think the Bears and Seahawks will take it.
All right. And I
don't think the Rams. I do think Bears and Seahawks.
All right. And I am going to just talk about my team a little bit here for a second on kind of a different note. The fourth true or false is the Oakland Raiders will end the season with the worst record in the NFL.
Oh,
right now
that's not a good one for your team.
Right now they're at 3-10. The Chiefs, they play the Chiefs, the Panthers, and the Chargers still. And the worst record in the NFL, there's two teams with a worse record than them. I think it's the Jaguars and the Chiefs. And they play the Chiefs once, and the Chiefs have looked better. And I think a lot of this is coming off the fact I was just barely at Raiders Stadium. There's a lot of fans there that are more interested in the Raiders changing stuff. Like, they have signs and stuff trying to get them to change coordinators and stuff than they are in anything. And it's just not a great feel there. Like, I think they have a ton of potential going forward into next year, but I don't know what the hell is going on. So I am going to say true. What do you think, Eric?
I'm going to say false. I think the Chiefs, they've looked better lately, but I don't think it sticks. And I also think the Jaguars, I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think Cecil Shorts being out, and I think Their running back situation has made it really hard for them, but I don't see them really doing that well either. If Shorts was still there, I think it'd be a little bit better, but I think the Raiders will finish above both of them.
All right, cool. And then the last question, as we are running out of time, is the Chicago Bears will not make the playoffs. And this is kind of different because I thought they looked great in the beginning of the season, but they've kind of fallen apart here at the end. And their schedule goes like this, which is the Packers, the Cardinals, and the Lions. And Cutler's been injured, but he says he's going to play. And the big thing with me is I'm going to say true, which feels really weird to do, but I'm going to say true because their defense is missing Urlacher and Jennings, and that has obviously killed them. And I don't know how long it's going to be before either of those guys are back to 100%. They play the Packers this next week, and everyone has seen what the Packers can do to them, no matter what each team's record is. So I think they lose that game. I think they will win the Cardinals, but that's just because it's the Cardinals. And I honestly think on their last week of the season, they'll probably lose to the Lions. I think the Lions have looked better. I think the Lions, they were like two little mistakes away from winning the Packers last night. And I keep saying it, and it keeps sounding like I'm just an idiot probably. But the Lions are so much better than their record.
Yeah,
it's
they are.
not even funny. So I think the Bears are going to find a way to not make the playoffs. And all of a sudden, I kind of think that division's only going to have one team come out, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So you think the Redskins are going to take it, and still it'll be Seahawks, Redskins, wild card?
Yeah.
I feel like I already said I think the Bears, so I'm going to stick with it. Even though looking at it more, I do feel like, it could be Redskins, Cowboys, Vikings, Rams.
And Vikings, just off the running of Adrian Peterson, could win the rest of their games.
Wow.
He has been insane.
He likes to start out games with a touchdown.
Yeah.
First play, I got this.
And that's the thing, too, is if you look a little bit closer to this, 49ers 9-3-1, Packers 9-4, Giants 8-5. Like, that is so much closer than people realize with all these teams that are in the hunt. The Saints are the only one that's at below 6-7. And so a lot of stuff could change in these three games. The NFC is still so wide open.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
All right. We ran a little late today, but...
Yeah, and make sure to jump over to our website and vote on these when you get a chance. And let us know your opinion. Yeah, and then just send us in your questions on Twitter's the place we seem to get them the most. We don't care where you send them, but Twitter at Fantasy Top 5, www.ourfantasytop5.com is our website. You can leave the questions there and vote on our poll. And basically, like we said, all the stuff Lane posted up, so you should be able to see all the stuff right now.
Yep.
And then I'm Sean.
And I'm Eric.
See
ya.
Peace out.